Afrikili family, Global Pack Nation, welcome to the Business Pack, our business talk series. What if I was to ask you, who is your best customer? You know what? I wouldn't be surprised if, like most entrepreneurs, you tell me, well, it's the next customer. But what if I told you that actually the best customer you have as an entrepreneur is the customer you already have, not your best customer? Because guess what? By focusing on the customer you currently have, that is the best strategy to scale your business and turn those current customers into your sales force. But the way you do it is by focusing on what happens before the customer actually gets your product and what happens after that customer gets your product. This is done through a process that we call the full life cycle use case. Don't worry, it is a very simple concept. And rest assured, by the time we're done talking about this, it will make so much sense that you will be more than excited to go right into the sandbox and apply this into your current idea and your current business. So there you have it. Let's fasten our seatbelts. Let's dive in and let's get to work. All right, family. So once again, thank you and welcome to the Business Pack Show, our business talk series. This is Tony Pumusimba Kwambambangubo. Before we get started, let me actually just say a very quick Happy Africa Day to all our viewers out there. If you were originally from the African continent, or even if you're just in the big Pan-African diaspora, this might be an interesting day. Africa Day is the day that's celebrated around the world on May 25th, which celebrates the founding of what used to be called Africa Liberation Day, with the creation of the Organization of African Unity, the OAU, in 1963, which later on in 2002 just became the African Union. So till this day, it is celebrated around the world. So if it is a day that's important to you, happy Africa Day, and I hope you have a fantastic day in a symbolic day that's supposed to celebrate freedom, unity, elevation. All right, so there you have it. Okay, folks, so our show today, the Business Pack. Let me just actually say very quickly also thank you. Thank you to all of you who continue to support our concept. We have our Global Pack show during the week where we talk about events that happened in the Global Pack, but also in our weekend series, right? Which started as a Friday business school, but now we've just decided to make it a weekend business school. So anywhere from Friday to Sunday, we'll be talking topics about business. So thank you for all your support. All of you that are tuning in, all of you that are subscribing during the week and so on, I really, really appreciate that. And for those of you who have not done that, let me just ask very quickly if you would take the time to click on the subscribe button. That will help us tremendously. And it only takes a second, just 1 second. You click subscribe, and guess what? It allows this platform to grow. It allows you to be part of this great growing community, and we can all grow together. We can achieve the goals that we set for ourselves in 2025. But guess what? Without you folks, we cannot do it. So thank you very much. And also consider sharing. When you click share and you send it, it goes to your network. So thank you ahead of time for that. All right. That being said, today we are talking about your best customer. Remember, this is a series that we started about about a month ago. This business series, we're following a framework called the 24 Steps to a Successful Startup, the Disciplined Entrepreneurship series. And so we are following the framework that is described in this book. As you can see here, this is the book a book written by Professor Bill Aulet out of MIT. And so this series, just as a quick reminder, is for all of you who have a great idea. You think you want to start a business, you want to start a startup, but you do not know how. You have an idea, but you just don't know where to start. And so this framework is simply a framework to help those of you who are uncertain how to turn your idea into a business. It gives you a guideline, it gives you a framework, it gives you a roadmap. And this is something that works tremendously because I myself used it when I went to the business school here at Rice University. We went through the process, this framework, it works. Out of that came my company, as you know, if you've been following this series. Not only that, some of the best business schools in the world, whether it's MIT, the Booth Business in Chicago, whether it's Harvard. These concepts are taught in some of the best business schools in the world. So why would that be done if this does not work? It works, folks. So, and if you've been following this series, you already know that. But if you're new, really, I can guarantee that if you follow these steps, this 24 steps from start to finish, that idea that you have in your mind, you will be able to rapidly turn that into a startup, into a business. But if anything, you will find out quickly if it works or not. Now, finally, before we get started, clearly entrepreneurship is not an exact science, right? There's many ways to do this. And many people will actually combat an academic way of attacking entrepreneurship by saying, you know what, entrepreneurship is not designed to be academic. There's some truth to it. However, here's the deal, folks. If you fail to plan, you're planning to fail. So having a plan and a framework is no guarantee to succeed. I understand that. But not having a plan is almost a surefire way of failing. So it is better off having steps. Go through a roadmap. It doesn't hurt. And this also teaches you how to do it in an affordable way. And you turn your business into a real idea. So there you have it. Okay. It's been, 7 minutes since we started. One of the feedback I received in some of the previous business talks is that I need to figure out a way to make these series shorter. The concepts are interesting to some of you, but you asked that maybe I go straight to the point and make it shorter, which is what I will do. So if you're interested, right, in finding out more during the week, well, I'll tell you what. Feel free to send me a comment, send me questions, and then I can expound more in depth on these topics. Remember to also get the book if you want. This book that I'm following here is the one you see on the top here. So it's the old version from 2013 is the one I've been doing in this series. The version that you see underneath here is the new updated version from 2024. So there's some updates. I highly recommend you getting these books. I am not sponsored by this author. I'm not getting anything out of these books, but it just helps you to follow along the steps. You don't have to get it. If you don't want to get it, fine. You can just follow the show, our discussions, and then you exercise it during the week. And then on the following week, you come back and we continue that way. So either way, but I strongly recommend it. If not, that is also fine. All right. Now let's jump into the topic that we'll be covering today. So let me see here. All right, great folks. So today we'll do something called the full life cycle use case. This is essentially a step that allows you to see that by targeting the customers that you currently have, that is the best way to scale your business. Because at the end of the day, yes, you do not have a business until you have a paying customer. That's understood. We talked about it 3 weeks ago. If you have an idea in your mind, great, but that's not a business yet. You may have the most beautiful spreadsheet in the world. That is fantastic. It is not a business yet. Your idea becomes a business the moment you have one paying customer. So that's a business. Now, the key is how you get repeat revenue. Most entrepreneurs will say, I have one customer as I'm starting, so now let me focus on the next customer and the next customer and the next customer. Nothing wrong with scaling, but here's the deal. Start by focusing first on the customer that you already have. All right? Activate them. Because those customers, if you continue addressing their needs in an efficient way, you continue solving their pain points, those customers, through their repeat use, will turn out into your best sales force. They'll end up being the best ambassadors for you. So it behooves you to really emphasize repeat usage of the customers you already have. Now, the only way you can do that is by not only focusing on how your current persona uses your product. Remember the concept of persona? We talked about it in the previous weeks. So that's the person who uses your product, right? Usually when you hear the word use case, it focuses on how your customer or your persona uses your product. That's why the term use case. It's a case of how the customer uses your product. But here you want to go beyond that. You do not only want to focus on the use case, but you want to focus on the full cycle. The full cycle here means you focus on what happens. I'm sorry, I forgot to remove the pictures here. Okay, there you have it. A full case means you focus on what happens pre-acquisition and post-acquisition. Pre-acquisition means what happens before the customer acquires your product, and post-acquisition is what happened after the acquisition. So after the customer uses your product. That is very important, folks, if you want to guarantee repeat usage, because by you fully understanding that cycle, understanding what happens before your customer, that before the acquisition, it means that you understand what activates a user so that they get to the point where they determine that, yes, we have needs. Yes, the way we're trying to address the needs now is not adequate, but then your product is the one we need. So you need to understand what activates the customer. You need to activate that, understand that very, very well. And then the post acquisition, what happens once they have been activated, they have acquired your product. So what needs to happen so that they keep on coming and reusing your product? And not only that, they end up being incentivized to tell other people about your product and henceforth turning them into your best sales force. That is the key here, all right, into scaling. If you fully understand that cycle, then you will not go into an issue that a lot of new startup face is that, customers are coming in, they're excited, but then poof, the volume's deep, the sales drop, and then they don't understand how. Then it starts scrambling. Whereas if you understand that full cycle, it allows you to overcome that. All right, folks. So that's the idea here. Okay. So what is the process of this thing? Okay. What is the process of the full life cycle use case? Again, we're talking about an entire cycle. The process, well, the easiest way to map this out, to map that full cycle, is to still start with the use case. So you start by mapping out how your persona uses the product. So and to do this, because presumably to get to this step, we're in step number 6 now. You have undergone a lot of market research, primary market research. Right? Remember, we did market segmentation, everything we did in the previous steps. So you have a plethora of primary market research at this point. And that research is where you base yourself. So now you map out the use case, how the persona, remember when you say persona, it's a very specific thing from your user, right? User profile. We've already built a persona, I think it was last week. So you focus on mapping out how the persona uses your product. So that's how you begin. That's the process. Once you have done that, then you now move on into the pre-acquisition. And so that's the activation part. And then once you've mapped out what activates the user, then you move on into the post. So again, you start with the use case, then pre-acquisition and post-acquisition. Don't worry, I'm going to show you. Remember, one of the things with this business series, our business talk, is to make sure this is not just another academic theoretical concept, but to actually show you on the screen and show you some of my personal data so that you fully understand how this applies in real life. And rest assured, I will show you how to do that. As a matter of fact, let's go straight into it. How do you, let me pull up the necessary screens here, and then I will show the screenshot, or not the screenshot, but my screen rather. So there are some questions. There's about 10 questions you have to go through as you are beginning the process of mapping out this and how you essentially have a full life cycle. Here's how you do it. Let me make sure I should be able to master this technical process by now. We're going to share the screen. Then once we share the screen here, we will, let me see. Give me 1 second, folks. Okay. There you have it. I believe, yes, you should be in a position to see the screen here. Let me just double check on that. Okay. So this, as I've written on the screen, I just put down the all the steps for you, all the steps for you here. It's let me make it bigger so I don't hide it. Okay, so as you can see, right here, so I just titled the essential factors of the full life cycle use case. Okay, you essentially go through, you just answer these 10 questions. This will help you map out the full life cycle. It is, it can be a bit, there is some work involved. As I told you guys last week, listen, guys, it's brothers and sisters, friends, nothing good is simple in life. There is some work involved here. It's not as if it will magically happen, but this work is worth it. You go through it, you will gain so much clarity in transforming that idea into a startup, into a real business. All right, so these are the 10 questions you want to go through. Question number 1: how does the end user determine they have a need or an opportunity to do something different? You want to go ahead and describe that and go through that. How do the customers find out about your product? You need to know. The primary research will help you do this. How do they analyze your product? 4, how do they acquire your product? 5, how will they install your product? Install if it's technology, or in other words, how do they include it in their value chain, in their processes? Number 6, how will they use your product in detail? That's the use case part, right? Number 7, how will they determine the value gained from your product? Remember, as I said, I think it was the first or the second show about this business series. The name of the game in business is value creation. You're creating value for your customers. That is why they come back to use your product, because they gain some value from your product. Now, as an entrepreneur, success is also determined on how much of that value you are able to capture. Like, the more you know how to capture the value you're creating, the more you will succeed and the more you will scale your business. So capturing the value that you create. 8, how they will pay for your product. You need to be able to describe that. How will they receive support for your product? And number 10, how will they buy more and spread awareness? So this is that whole portion about becoming a repeat user. So going through these 10 questions and answering these will allow you to map out that full life cycle use case. If you want to see a bit more, let me show you from how this translated when I did it back then. So this data that you see here is from way back as I was going through business school. I went through the same exercise because remember, we went through the theory in one whole semester. An entire semester, we went through a new enterprise class where we learned all these 24 steps in theory. And then the following semester, we went through the new enterprise lab where we now applied the theory. And then in my case, it turned out into a company, which ended up being an energy company, a renewable energy company that we deployed in Africa. So here is how that translated. So those 10 questions that we saw, remember these 10 questions here, like how the end users will determine they have a need, how will they find out about your product, and so on. So here they are. So these are the 10 questions. So how will the end user determine they have a need for it? So I describe that. So in this case, we went through 6 different iteration. Question number 2, how will they find out about our product? We went through the process of describing how they will find out about the product. How will they acquire our product? How will they install our product? How will the customer use our product? How will they determine the value they gain from the product? How will they pay for the product? How will they receive support for our product? And 10, how will they buy more and spread awareness about our product. So we had to go through it. Again, folks, I would not spend our precious time teaching you this stuff that students across the world in some of the best business schools also learn if I didn't think it was worth your time. This is worthwhile, right? Some students are paying thousands of dollars, over $100,000 to go to business school to learn some of this stuff. All right. And it's coming to you for free here. It's so you don't lose anything by trying to apply this. And this stuff works. Believe it, it does work. Now, it is key as you go through these steps to essentially, you want to view this from the lens of the customer. And this is a key point. You know, many times as entrepreneurs, we can fall through the trap of falling in love with our solution. You know, you speak to an entrepreneur and it's like, man, my idea is the best invention since sliced bread. We fall in love with our concept. That is a big problem because you actually you never want to just fall in love with your product, your technology, but rather you want to fall in love with solving the problem. So it is critical as you go through this to view everything from the lens of your user. So put yourself in the shoes of your persona. That is how you want to do this exercise. Don't do it from your standpoint, because if you do it from your own standpoint or viewpoint as the entrepreneur, there's many things that will happen. One, we typically have the tendency to overestimate things, and you will also fall through that trap. You want to avoid that. As a matter of fact, I think that the book that does a great job at expressing that. So yeah, you will overestimate things, and then you're overconfident about the value that you think your product will provide the customer. So look at it from the point of view of the customer. That is absolutely critical. All right. So that's one. No. So that's an important point. So put yourself in the shoes of your customer. And then the other thing is this exercise. There's a lot of questions here. Obviously, there's some typing and writing and so on. But it is important that the final result is in the form of a diagram, because the more you make it visual, the more you can kind of see the entire process flow. So the end result of this can look at something similar to this. All right. So as you can see I've put it in a diagram format. So all those questions and everything essentially come up to this. This is a full life cycle, as you can see on the screen here. So one, there's the need part. The need is that whole pre-acquisition is, is my picture in the way? Okay. Let's see if we can remove my picture. Let me see here. So give me 1 second. I'm gonna move my picture so that we can look at this without. Okay. Okay, so there you have it. My picture. All right, my picture should be out of the way now. Okay, so you want to end up with a diagram like this. So need is that activation. That's a pre-acquisition. What's the problem? What activates the user, right? It's like, why would they even need your product? How are they solving the problem that you're addressing right now? So that's the need part. And then secondly, the evaluation. They need to be able to evaluate. Let me move this box a bit on the side. There you go, evaluation. All right. So that's when they analyze your product. It's like, all right, do we even need is your product the right solution? Once they've evaluated your product, now they move into the purchase. So that's when now they pay for your product. They acquire. That's the acquisition phase, and that's also where the use case and so on comes into place. And then you have the satisfaction part. Are they satisfied with the usage? And then the repeat use. So if you look at the box right here in the need, that's the opportunity to use your product, right? So what is the pain point? And more importantly, what are the constraints? Because the current constraints that the customer is experiencing to solve that problem is your entry point, right? Because they have a problem. They know they need to solve it. But the solution that they are attempting to use, for some reason, is not working well for them. There's some constraints to the adoption of that. So by you understanding that, you then position yourself in a way where you target that constraint. So in other words, you are addressing the same problem that they're trying to solve, but you're doing it in a way that allows them to eliminate the constraints that they're currently having. So your solution ends up being more convenient for them. The more you understand that, the better it is. That's how you activate the user. All right. And then the evaluation piece, that's when they come and start looking at things. How easy is it to use your product? Do you have many different solutions if it's maybe an online platform? How credible are you? What are some of your prices compared to the alternatives? How do you deliver the solution? So that's when they evaluate you. And that's particularly important to understand this piece if you're dealing with, say, business customers. All right. Because a B2B a sort of solution, the adoption time, right, for a business to incorporate you in their value chain is way different than if you just targeted a regular user. So you need to understand that. The cycle is maybe longer for you to complete the sale with the business, but you need to understand the evaluation piece. The purchase piece, that's the acquisition now. So now the customer decides to buy, or maybe if it's an online product, they shop online, digital payment and so on. So this was very online driven. The satisfaction piece, so now they've used your product. So now you need to ensure that they are satisfied, right? Maybe you continue highlighting the convenience, price saving, or you have a dedicated support for them. So you want to ensure that they're fully satisfied, and without forgetting that the issue needs to be solved. You need to create real value. And then the last piece is the big one, repeat use, because you want them to keep coming back. And not only keep coming back to use your solution or your product, but to use word of mouth and to activate them and turn them into your sales force, right? And the more you do that, your business starts scaling. And then once you master this piece, then you start seeing how you scale it and you scale it. And it is particularly important if you're able to duplicate the full life cycle, or if it is confirmed by more than one persona, then you certainly know you are on the right track. And this is really the best way to turn from a $0, $100, whatever revenue it is that you're generating, to becoming a multi-million-dollar company, is by understanding that piece, by ensuring repeat user, and by turning your current user into your sales force, going through the network, and bringing in more customers. And then, of course, after that, you have your own marketing, because now you start duplicating what works for this and personas such as this into other users. And finally, I would say, to conclude on this, having this data into a digital format, as we've seen here, is absolutely critical, because it allows you to visualize the whole cycle. You start understanding what are some of the potential problems that would prevent a user from using my product. When they're using it, what are some of the still the constraints and the challenges? And then how do I make sure that they are repeat users? So you now get a full understanding. And then this is something you work with your co-founders, of course, If your company, as you're start scaling, you have a bigger team, this is information that has to be available to the entire team. So everybody's on the same page and understands what it takes to get to the promised land. All right, folks, I will end up here for today. I hope you were able to gain value from what we covered. So if you have any question, I went about this fairly quickly. 31 minutes. The goal is keep it under 30 minutes again. I'll get it next week. We'll certainly make sure we keep this under 30 minutes. We're at 31 right now. If you have any question, don't hesitate. Shoot me an email. The email is visible on the, if you go on the YouTube page profile, you just go into about, the email address is there. Shoot an email or send a comment, right? You can comment, and then if we see it, we'll be able to address it. But the idea here is to show you the way. Hopefully you're able to practice some of these steps during the week. And then when we come back in our next installment of our, weekend business school or the business talk, business pack, then we keep on moving. And the promise I made you when we started this series was that if you go through these 24 steps, I guarantee, and I'm not using this word lightly, right? This is not just me blowing it out of proportion, hyperbole, if you will. But I guarantee that the idea that you have in your mind, that maybe you do not know how to turn that into a business, I guarantee that after these 24 steps, you will know exactly how to transform that into a successful startup. These are proven steps and they work. All right, folks, as we conclude, if you've not subscribed to the show, please consider liking this video. More importantly, click on the subscribe, become part of this growing community, but also click on share. If you think that somebody else in your network might benefit from this information, click on share, get it to them. Those two things, subscribing, sharing, would help us tremendously, will help this community grow. All right, folks, remember, we are a beautiful people. We are a strong people. We are a special people. Don't let anybody convince you otherwise. Until next time, this was Tony Mfumu Simba Kwambamba Ngumbu. Peace be with you. Asante sana, which means thank you very much in Swahili. And until next time, remember, this was the Business Pack. Thank you very much.